The small charter plane carried 9 people through the black Florida sky. Below them was nothing. No roads. No lights. No towns. Just the Everglades. Hundreds of miles of dark swamp water, sawgrass, and alligators stretching out in every direction like a trap waiting to close. In seat 6C, Dr. Maya Reeves was sleeping. She wore a plain gray hoodie and dark jeans. Her head rested against the window. A medical journal sat open on her lap, half read. To anyone looking at her, she was just a tired woman catching sleep on a short night flight from Miami to Naples, Florida. Nobody special. Nobody important. Nobody knew she had spent 11 years as a combat trauma surgeon with the United States Army. Nobody knew she had treated patients inside burning vehicles in Afghanistan. Nobody knew she had survived a helicopter crash in hostile mountains and walked her entire injured crew to safety through 6 hours of darkness. Nobody knew any of that. She was just the quiet woman in 6C who fell asleep before takeoff. The pilot, Captain Dennis Holt, had flown this exact route over 400 times. Miami to Naples. 40 minutes. Completely routine. His co-pilot, Travis Webb, was checking weather on his tablet. Clear skies. Light winds. Everything looked perfect at 11:47 at night. In the front seat sat the Garcia family. Parents and 2 young boys, ages 7 and 9. The boys had finally fallen asleep after a full day at Disney World. Their mother Rosa watched them with the quiet expression of a parent grateful for 5 minutes of peace. Behind them sat 2 businessmen with laptops open. They barely looked up during the whole flight. And next to Maya in seat 6C sat Dorothy Chin, 71 years old, traveling alone to visit her daughter in Naples. She had brought homemade cookies in a small tin box and offered one to Maya before takeoff. Maya had taken one, smiled, and fallen asleep. 9 people, 40 minutes. Completely routine. At 11:52, 5 minutes into the flight, Captain Holt smelled something wrong. He could not name it immediately. Something hot. Something electrical coming from somewhere below him. He checked his instruments. Everything looked normal. He told himself it was probably nothing. At 11:54, the smell got stronger. Travis Webb noticed it too. They looked at each other. Neither spoke for 3 seconds. Then the warning light appeared. A small amber light on the instrument panel. Cargo bay temperature sensor. The storage compartment directly beneath the rear passenger seats was showing a heat spike. Captain Holt had seen that exact light one time before in his career. 12 years ago. On a different aircraft. He knew immediately what it could mean. Electrical fire in the cargo bay. He reached for the fire suppression system and activated it. The panel showed it had discharged. He waited. The temperature light stayed on. The suppression had failed. He grabbed the radio and tried to reach Naples air traffic control. The transmission broke up. He tried again. Partial response only. They could barely hear him. He checked his map. They were directly over the deepest part of the Everglades. The nearest landing strip was Everglades Air Park, 9 miles southwest. At current speed, exactly 6 minutes away. The temperature reading climbed higher. 6 minutes. That was everything they had. He pressed the intercom button. His voice came through every speaker in the cabin, louder than he intended, cracking with the weight of 9 lives sitting behind him. "Passengers, this is your captain. We have a fire developing below the rear cabin floor. I need everyone calm and seated. We are diverting immediately." Maya's eyes opened. Not slowly. Not with confusion. Instantly. The way soldiers wake when something is wrong. 3 seconds. That was all she needed. She smelled the smoke before she was fully upright. Thin, acrid, coming from below her feet. She pressed her palm flat against the floor. It was warm. Not hot yet, but warm in the specific way that told her the fire was directly underneath, building pressure against the aluminum floor panels beneath seat 6C. She understood the situation completely. Fire below the rear seats. Suppression failed or she would not smell smoke. Small plane over the Everglades at night. If that floor failed before landing, the aircraft would go down into black swamp water no rescue team could reach in time. The Everglades would take them all. She stood up. First she went to Dorothy beside her. She put her hand on the old woman's arm and spoke quietly and directly. "Dorothy, look at me. I need you to move across the aisle right now. Do not ask why. Just move." Dorothy moved without a single question. Maya crouched low and pressed both palms against the floor near her seat. She measured the heat with the same clinical focus she had used measuring vital signs in field hospitals. The fire was real. It was growing. The floor structure gave them maybe 4 minutes before it became dangerous. Maybe less. 6 minutes to the air park. 4 minutes of floor. The math was bad. She walked to the front of the cabin fast. The flight attendant, Keisha, 24 years old, was standing frozen near the cockpit door. Her training was telling her to stay calm. Her face was showing everything else. Maya stopped directly in front of her and spoke low so the passengers could not hear clearly. "I am Dr. Maya Reeves, Army trauma surgeon. 11 years active duty. Listen to me carefully. How many fire extinguishers on this aircraft?" Keisha blinked hard. "2. One here, one in the back. Bring me both of them right now. And I need to know the location of the cargo bay floor inspection panel. It is under the rear carpet near row 6. What side?" "How do you know about that?" "Army aircraft training." "Which side of the aisle?" "Left side. Under the carpet near your seat." "Get me those extinguishers." Keisha moved. Maya knocked on the cockpit door. Captain Holt opened it. She had 10 seconds to make him trust her completely. "Captain, Maya Reeves, Army trauma surgeon retired. 11 years. I have aircraft emergency training. Your floor panel under row 6 gives direct access to the cargo bay. Your suppression system failed. I can apply manual suppression through that panel. It will buy you time. How many minutes to the air park?" Captain Holt looked at her for exactly 1 second. 6 minutes, he said. "The floor gives us 4. I need to move right now." He reached behind him without another word and handed her the emergency breathing hood from the cockpit kit, the only one on the aircraft. "Take it," he said. She took it and turned back toward the rear of the plane. Maya moved down the aisle fast. She pulled back the carpet near seat 6C. The floor panels were warm under her fingers. She found the inspection cover. Small, rectangular, for quarter-turn fasteners holding it shut. She worked the fasteners with both hands. Around her the boys were awake and crying. Rosa Garcia was holding them both against her chest, watching Maya over their heads, with an expression of pure desperate hope. The businessmen had closed their laptops. Dorothy sat perfectly still across the aisle watching Maya with calm, steady eyes. The last fastener turned. Maya pulled on the breathing hood, positioned herself low to the floor, and lifted the panel. Smoke came up immediately, thin but sharp. She aimed the first extinguisher directly down into the opening and discharged the entire canister. 10 seconds of white chemical cloud pouring into the fire below. She dropped the empty canister and pressed her palm to the floor beside the opening. Still hot. She grabbed the second extinguisher and discharged it completely into the same opening. 10 more seconds. She closed the panel and pressed both palms flat against the floor. She waited. 5 seconds. 8 seconds. 10 seconds. The floor temperature stopped climbing. Not cold. Not safe. But it had stopped rising. She stood up and moved back to the cockpit door and knocked twice. "Fire is suppressed, not out," she said through the door. "Floor is holding. You have your window. How long now?" Captain Holt's voice came back immediately. 4 minutes. "Land this plane, Captain." 4 minutes is a long time when you are counting every second. Rosa Garcia was whispering something to her boys. A prayer maybe. Or just their names over and over the way mothers do when they are terrified. The older boy had stopped crying and was watching the ceiling. The younger one had buried his face in his mother's shoulder. Dorothy sat completely still with her cookie tin on her lap and her eyes closed. The businessmen held onto their armrests and said nothing. Keisha stood at the front with her hands folded together. And Maya stood in the aisle near row 6 with her palm pressed against the wall, feeling the aircraft, waiting, counting. 3 minutes. 2 minutes. 1 minute. Then the wheels hit the runway at Everglades Air Park at 12:03 in the morning, and the aircraft rolled hard and fast down a strip barely long enough to stop them, and Captain Holt stood on the brakes, and the plane shuddered and slowed and stopped. Complete stop. Engines off. 40 seconds later, every single person was standing on the tarmac in the dark Florida night. The Everglades surrounded them completely. Frogs screaming in every direction. Warm wet air. The smell of grass and swamp water, and somewhere behind them, the faint smell of smoke from the aircraft. One small maintenance building with no lights on. No staff. No one for miles. 9 people standing on a dark airstrip in the middle of nowhere. Rosa Garcia was on her knees on the tarmac hugging both her boys, so hard the older one said, "Mom, you are squeezing too tight." She did not let go. Travis Webb sat down on the ground with his head in his hands, and did not move for a long time. Dorothy Chin walked over to Maya and held out the cookie tin. "You should have another one," she said. Maya laughed. It came out shaky, and she realized her hands were trembling. Adrenaline leaving the body. She had felt it after every mission. It always surprised her anyway. Captain Holt came and stood in front of her. "The fire investigator will confirm tomorrow," he said. "But my read is that panel would have failed in 2 more minutes. We had 6 minutes to that airstrip. You gave us the 4 we needed." He put out his hand. She shook it. "You saved 9 people tonight," he said. "You landed the plane," she said. The fire investigator's report came 3 days later. Electrical fault in the cargo bay wiring. Ignition directly beneath seats 5 through 7. Suppression system failed due to a faulty discharge valve missed in the last maintenance check. Without manual suppression, the floor structure would have failed in 3 to 4 minutes. The aircraft would have gone down over the Everglades at night. Black water. Alligators. No roads. Response time of 40 minutes minimum for any rescue team. 9 people. 0 survivors. The Everglades would have taken them all. Maya drove back to Miami the next afternoon after giving her statement. She stopped at a gas station outside Homestead and sat in her car with the engine off. She thought about the boys. The way the older one had stopped crying and stared at the ceiling trying to be brave. The way the younger one had not let go of his mother even after they were safely on the ground. She thought about Dorothy and the cookie tin. She thought about Captain Holt handing her his only breathing hood without hesitation. She looked at her hands resting on the steering wheel. They were steady now. She had left medicine 18 months ago. Burnout. The feeling that she had nothing left to give. She had told herself she was done with emergencies, done with the weight of it. She picked up her phone and called the director of Miami Trauma Center, who had been trying to recruit her for 8 months. He answered on the second ring. "I am ready," she said. "When do you need me?" The woman sleeping in seat 6C had been ready when it mattered. 6 minutes. 4 of them bought by her hands, and 2 fire extinguishers, and 11 years of training she had tried to leave behind. The Everglades took no one that night. Not because of luck. Because the right person was sleeping in the right seat. And when the smoke came through the floor beneath her feet, she woke up.